There's a voice of somebody in your ear trying to constantly tell you what to do. It's not your mom, it's not your dad, it's not even your crazy aunt, if you have one, or your ex, even though they might all be trying to tell you what to do. I don't know about your family if they're like mine, but the voice I'm talking about in this video is way more toxic and way more persuasive than any of those voices, and it's with us 24/7. You wanna guess what voice I'm talking about? Yes, our internal voice in our heads. It's telling us constant stories about how the world should be, and in my experience, telling me stories about how limited I am, how I need to stay stuck in a small box while everyone else around me can thrive and soar, why my content can't be as good as someone else's, and why my videos can't pop like theirs do, and why I can't be as successful in business as these people are. These are the stories I'm telling myself every single day. And you're on this video, so I really think you're resonating with what I'm putting down, and you're probably feeling the same way. Why do we tell ourselves these stories? And more importantly, how do we shift them? So that's what I want to share in this video. So I'm going to share with you some of my personal experiences. And then as we get into the video, I'm going to share with you two big mindset shifts that I know you have not heard before, because these are things that I think I came up with and developed on my own. So anyway, let's talk about this right now. So the reason that we are feeling this way is because we ultimately want to feel secure in life. That's what I believe. I think these stories really are setting out to help us stay safe. It's kind of like the idea that we go into fight or flight, or we want to stay protected and we want to guard ourselves from any threat in life. And I think that is really what's happening. And it comes from an altruistic place, I guess, but what happens is we start to develop these stories over time, and then they start to define who we are. These stories, in my experience, are so intrinsic that I don't even really verbalize the stories anymore. They used to be stories, now they've come full-on beliefs. They're like seared in my mind, and they're things that I just naturally assume to be true. Well, of course, business is going to be hard for me. Of course, content creation is going to be hard for me. Of course, I'm not going to be able to excel like those people. Well, why do I believe that? Because at some point along the way, I've told myself that story, and then it starts to get internalized. And then now that is who I am shaping my reality. That's who I'm shaping myself to be in my reality, because I'm putting that out to the world. So a couple of years ago, I actually started making some key mindset shifts and doing a lot of mindset work, focusing on learning about law of attraction and also manifestation. This video is not about those things. So even if you don't know if you believe about those yet, or you're not really into that world, don't worry. You're still going to get something out of this video, because this concept of framing who we want to be and shaping that and walking ourselves in that direction is really what we're talking about. And those are the same things that are the foundational principles of mindset work and manifestation and law of attraction. So the first mindset shift: you are only as great as you think you can be. Now sit with this for a second. I think I made this up. I don't know that I read this anywhere else. But this statement is big, and what I like about it is I come back to it a lot, because it's showing me and you how much control we have to shape our reality. In fact, we have 100% control, because we can't always control the physical space around us. We can't control what inputs are coming into us. But what we can control is our mindset and how we think. And when we close our eyes, quite frankly, the world is shut out for that moment, and it exists in our mind and our imagination. So think about how powerful that is for us to reframe things on the fly and actually get control of our emotions and start to change the energy about how we show up. Guess what happens? It starts to change the energy all around us. And I believe this is like straight up scientific. And this is not a physics video. I'm not going to do one of the physics examples, but this idea that we attract what we put out. Because I believe that the universe is like, well, you thought this was you, so I'm going to give you more of who you think you are and the types of outputs you want to be. And I think that is how we stay stuck. And that has been my experience for many years. And so one of the things that I really set out to do is to understand how to reframe those stories so that it removes that ceiling of greatness that frankly these stories are creating. So why are these stories trying to limit me? what is the thing? What am I most afraid of? And that's an activity that I would like to encourage you to do today. I did this in a very simple way. I just fired up a Google Doc on the computer and I wrote out all the fears that I had about success in business or starting this YouTube channel, which I procrastinated for 8 years, and thought about how I wanted that to be different. What was I afraid of? I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of people judging me, whatever. And then I started to realize those stories are catastrophic. Those aren't guaranteed to happen. And even if there's proof that those things may happen, meaning maybe I got a bad comment on another post on another platform and now I don't want to do YouTube, that's fine. But guess what? There's equally as many, if not more, positive proof points to corroborate the story of positivity, which is I will excel on YouTube. I will thrive in content creation. I will thrive in business. We choose the story and then we start filling in the characters and corroborating the story to build the case for whatever we want. So my question for you, why not tell ourselves the story that's positive and great and says you can be whatever you want? What would it look like if you woke up for the next week and told yourself that story every morning? I want to challenge you to do that. I think it's going to start to change how you show up. Because by saying those things in the morning and throughout the day, we start to head on change those narratives and fill the stories, at least, with positive stories. And then the negative ones can start to dissipate. I also do a mindset activity in the morning. A meditation activity in the morning where I sit down for 5 minutes. Sometimes I'll do 10 if I have more time. I do this before I do anything else, before I log on any devices. And I set a timer and I just close my eyes, I start to count my breaths, and then I'll go into what I call the blank space. Sometimes it is very hard. Sometimes these stories are coming up saying, you're a failure, you're this, you're too late, you need to get started on work, you haven't posted a video. And sometimes those things will be happening and I'll just let them sit. And what happens is, on days when I'm able to go to the blank space and get more clear, the ideas kind of go out to the periphery, these false stories, and then I can create this expansiveness, this kind of like aura around my head, if you will, and these false stories are kind of out in the periphery, and I can breathe and think in this space. This sounds a bit ethereal, but it works, because what happens is I can start to hear clarity, and this is when I've often gotten the most clear thoughts about what I need to do that particular day, or coming out of that when the alarm goes off. Sometimes then I will set a new intention. I'll say, my intention for today is to be happy. My intention for today is to do great work. My intention is to have an awesome client meeting. My intention is to create a great video. You get the point. Say it out loud, and also then say your identity, who you are. I say things like, I am a influential YouTuber. I help so many people on YouTube. I try to not put numbers on it for me, but I say big statements like a lot of people, many people. I'm widely known. Just lots of people like what I'm doing. And that really helps, because then I can start to embody the identity of that person. And then the negative stories that start to fight against it, now there's a strong pillar of this other story that they have to compete against. So this will not change necessarily overnight, but it's going to start changing pretty quickly if you embody these strategies. Trust me and believe on this, because I literally thought a couple years ago that I just couldn't see a world where I could get out of this mental gridlock of perfectionism and this feeling that growing and excelling and actually overcoming these barriers, like I couldn't see it. And it's because the stories around me that were in my mind were so negative and so limiting, and I couldn't see it. And thankfully, a lot of these strategies came into my life through different people and whatever, and I'm sharing them with you now. Of how to do that. So take some time each morning and try to get yourself centered. Do that for 7 days. And I think it's really going to change how you show up in whatever you want to be in your life. It doesn't matter what limiting belief you're trying to get rid of. Start to visualize the you that is already doing that successful thing, and you're going to start to work backward and be that person. The second mindset shift, we choose to stay stuck. This may be controversial because you might be thinking, I am stuck. I don't have any money. My business is struggling. You have any number of physical limitations or illnesses or ailments or whatever it is that has you stuck. And I'm not negating those things in the physical world. What I'm talking about is we don't have to let the physical world shape the stories we tell ourselves. This is money. Sit with me on this, because if you're a perfectionist like me, you're driven and you're caught up in your thoughts all the time, this does not come naturally because we're reacting to everything that's happening. And when we realize that if we close our eyes, no matter what's happening in the moment, as long as we have consciousness, we can reshape in our minds what's happening in real life. And then therefore, we can start to show up differently, and it starts to shape the energy around us. Now, this obviously can shape things in a number of ways, but what I find is even that small shift in thinking of closing our eyes and getting centered and deciding, I'm not going to be stuck by it right now. I'm actually choosing to be free. I'm choosing to be positive. I'm choosing to say things like, the world is working out for me. Opportunities are on their way to me. Things are abundant. And I know these get a lot of flack sometimes because there's funny jokes in the SNL skit about affirmations, but these work and they don't have to be cheesy. They just need to be things where you're saying to yourself what that world can look like, and you're telling yourself that different story. So this is huge, because what happens is when you start to change it in your own mind, then in my experience, the business landscape around me changes, the client relationships change, things feel more positive. I find that when there's stagnation or a lack of feedback or something's not moving, it often opens up pretty quickly. And so that's an important thing to keep in mind. Now, this translates directly for those of you, and it's probably many of you, because I talk a lot on this channel about content creation, because that's what I coach in, and I create content myself and helping people show up on camera and just get over these hurdles. So let's talk a minute about content creation. What does this mean for that? When you launch a YouTube channel, you most likely will not have a bunch of comments on every video day one. You may, but you probably won't have a lot, okay? And there could be some time to spin up. That's a perfect example. So when you put these videos up, don't let that external situation shape how you think about the YouTube channel. Now, I learned this lesson the hard way, and I'm gonna link a video here about how I almost quit on YouTube several weeks into it because I was stuck in total crazy making storytelling in my mind. I was telling myself the wrong stories, and it's not the positivity I'm telling you now. So learn from me, watch the video. But what I learned was, oh my God, I am reacting to the lack of feedback and telling myself, well, that shapes how my reality is. I'm not a good YouTuber. I don't create good content, whatever. And what I find is when we tell ourselves the stories, you don't really tell yourself a story without emotion. Stories have emotion. When we tell them on video, when we watch movies, every story has an emotion to it. And what's interesting is when we tell ourselves our own stories, we're feeling it too. I'm feeling a sense of panic. I'm feeling a sense of loss. I'm feeling a sense of emptiness, of being distant, like not having people close to me. Those things are persisting while I'm telling myself this bogus story that no one likes the content. And that's a perfect example of how we don't want to let the external circumstances shape what we can control, which is our internal story. But more than that, it may just sound like a coping mechanism, and it is in the beginning. Okay, that helps us cope with the reality that what's happening around us is not exactly what we would hope for. But what starts to happen is something even greater. And this happened directly in my YouTube journey, and it's still persisting now because I'm about 4 months into this and seeing some good momentum. A lot of you that are watching and commenting, thank you so much. You're giving me great feedback on what you like and what you want to hear. That feels good. But had I quit early, I wouldn't be here in this point. And if I quit now, I'm not going to be at that next level of greatness where I'm able to help more people, right? So what I do is I close my eyes. I don't close my mind. I close my eyes and I think about the great comments that I had. I had a really great conversation recently on one of the videos about imposter syndrome. We talked about it on the comments. That really spoke to me because it felt like we had a connection, and I was able to speak something that I was experiencing and hearing that someone else had this experience, one of my viewers. Super awesome. So that's great. And then also it starts to shape the reality around you when you you start to see the world through not what's happening now in the 3D world, but what's happening in what you're visualizing. And that's where we got to take that ceiling off and be great. Let ourselves be able to go as high as we can, really, limitless. Then we start to visualize in that limitless way. Okay, so trust me on this. I know in this video I'm not giving direct tactics on how to post content. That's not the intention of this video. I think getting these mindset shifts, these 2 mindset shifts in place first, are going to get you started, because these stories are what's holding you and me, held me back for a while, and I still have to combat these stories. These are what's holding us back from becoming that open, transparent, authentic content creator that is open to opportunities to have a massive audience. To be that person, me or you, we need to be open to it. We need to believe that we can be that person and that we are that person. We need to see ourselves as worthy of that greatness. That's what we have to do. And that translates not only for content creation, but any other parts of our lives, in your business, in your life, in your relationships. It starts with those 5 minutes in the morning for me of getting centered. And then sometimes I do it throughout the day too. That's my happy place, because that's where I can see the world in the way that I want it to be. And that's where I see the world the most clearly. And then it starts to shape everything else around me. So get in the comments and let me know if this is resonating with you. Say yes, and tell me what's up in the comments. As I just mentioned, having great conversations in there. I want to help you and talk about your issues. So get in the comments and let me know, and let other people know that this video is resonating with you, and that you're going to work on this, and you really are going to be great. Remove that ceiling and pursue greatness. Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to find me on my socials, I'm open to DMs on Instagram, LinkedIn. Write me over there as well. I'm happy to dialogue there. I'm here to meet and interact with as many of you as possible. So I'm super glad you're here today. And if you are looking for a way to actually embody some of these things now, to start to become that person that's full of confidence and able to really show up in a powerful way, watch this video, because I give some tactics on how to actually speak with confidence and start to embody that person that shows up and really shares their ideas with confidence. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Later.